Welcome, everybody, to Sage Development Authority's podcast. And we want to thank everyone for joining us. And in particular, few board members, few folks have been working hard to help us get the project started initially and then to move the project into the future. And joining us, we have Fawn and then Warren Hawk. And I'll give them a minute to introduce themselves after I let you know who I am. My name is Joe McNeil. I'm the General Manager for Sage Development Authority and a previous ex-tribal councilman, worked for Standing Rock Development Corps, and I'm very happy to be in this position moving this project forward. And I'll pass it off to Fawn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fawn Washizi. My Lakota name is Shunizi Oda Agliwi, which means she brings many buckskin horses. That name was given to me by my family. It was my great grandmother's name on my Agard side of my family. I'm also her namesake, Catherine, Fawn Catherine. I'm named after Catherine Agard. I'm by training, I'm a wildlife biologist. I've worked for several different natural resource programs for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe over my career. I've also left at one point to be a math and science teacher. But my specialty right now, and I've been primarily mostly working in this area for the past 10 years, is land management and natural resources, realty, stuff like that, working with the Bureau of Indian Affairs on land issues. So I'm very happy to be here. I was formerly the land operations officer for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and energy and mineral manager for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. I held dual titles, and I was the one that was working on all the energy grants before Sage started, before Sage became a Section 17 corporation, basically. And I got nominated to become the chair and to elect a board. So I was leaving the tribe at that time. So I was very, very happy to continue on with this work that's very dear to my heart. Because ultimately I'm a biologist, and my life's goal is it's broad and it's a big goal, but I want to save the world,
That occurred.
And we got to figure it out. So any way I can do that, I'm on board for it. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Fawn. Appreciate that. Warren? Hello, Warren. Warren's working hard now. Warren's with the big meetings in Bismarck. So I wanted to thank you for taking time to break away from that.
Yeah, my name is Warren Hawk. I serve as the at-large councilman for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. Previous to that, I did a lot of work in Oklahoma. I was born on Standing Rock, graduated from high school on Standing Rock, and then I moved away. Ended up living in Oklahoma for about 40 years, and during that time earned my college degrees and did a lot of work in community development. Sort of worked my way into grant writing, I guess. So the Cherokee Nation hired me as a technical writer, and then grants management specialist. Moved back to Standing Rock about 5 years ago now, and was hired on as a grants management specialist for the tribe. And after my mother passed, I didn't know what to do, so I just stayed in Standing Rock, and then I ended up being on the tribal council. So here I am. So my background and experience is a lot of community development work and looking at and analyzing a lot of community development projects. My writing ability, I guess, sort of helps me sort of define a lot of stuff that we can look at as an overall development project for the tribe. So I came onto this project when I hired on with the tribe. Was initially involved in just on the grants management side of things, and then floated over and became one of the board members of the tribe. Oh, for the Sage development. Sorry. So that's me in a nutshell, and I have a family. They're all living in Oklahoma. All my grandkids are living in Oklahoma, so I get back there as often as I can. But just being here and doing the work that I do here I'm unfortunate to have that time and the ability to work with the tribe and everything. So, but this is one of my sage development is one of my I would say like a pet project. I'm really supportive of it, and I really like the direction that it's going. Something that our tribe needs to have an answer for renewable energy. And I tell you, when we start discussing about climate change and the crisis that we find ourselves in,
Right.
that our communities and our native communities have always had the answers. And so we need to get ourselves out there and tell our governments that, we need to be at the table to have those discussions. And that's part of why I'm involved with this project as well.
Thank you, Warren. I really appreciate that. The point you bring up is that we need to be at the table, and then we're the ones who are always thinking about doing things in a regenerative way, a way of balance, but we're not often or at all asked to be at the table, i.e. we're on the table, or we're not even on the table. Either way, we're just not present. So thinking about some of the things that both of you just said, this is us pushing ourselves forward, by our own volition and will to provide a way for our kids moving ahead. I'm just so honored to be with you guys most of the time, all the time, as we're moving this project forward. And I think one of the points of this discussion is to talk about two separate things. One is SAGE itself, and then the other is the WIN project. So the WIN project born SAGE through the tribe. And so I'm very happy, Fawn touched on it a little bit there. And Fawn, could you talk a little bit about what year was it? 2016, 17, when we got a push in this direction, a direction to move in? I know that you and your office were already thinking about this wind farm, and how did it come about that the project got legs?
Yeah, there was just a turning point almost where I realized that, okay, yeah, we have these programs, we have all these grants as a tribe, but we need more than just feasibility studies and small grants to move projects along. We need an office that's going to spearhead this and make it its sole dedication. And at that point, I was the only employee for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe working on it, and it was only 10% of my time. So I said, you know what, we have to do something more. It's time. And we researched it, and we really thought, becoming a Section 17 would be the best route, because not only we're our own corporation, our own separate entity from Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, but we are still there working for the people of Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. We still, that is our original intention, is we are public servants to the enrolled members of Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, and we always have to keep them number one in our thoughts when we make decisions. So yeah, that came about, I would say, more like 2017.
Okay.
And we got the ball rolling, and officially, we were working on writing the charter, all of that, with our legal counsel. And officially, when was it, 2018? Or that we became?
2020.
2020, okay.
Right.
I remember I did do nominations, I believe the summer before, though, for the board members themselves. So, and I just kind of want to add that too, like, I really like when Warren talks about his background, is because I nominated Warren to be on the board, and because he worked in our grants management office at the time. So we really needed that expertise, and things I looked for when nominating the board is I wanted us to be as diverse as possible. I wanted everyone to bring something to the table, something that's going to be helpful for the needs of future wind projects or just future renewable energy projects altogether. brought that grants management experience. And although he's a member of Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, he lived most of his life on a different reservation. And I thought that's awesome because he brings this diversified background of another very successful Indian community reservation. And he can bring that back to us. And, we, from his experience, we learn through his experience. So I just thought that was a big plus on like, wow, what's the rest of the world out there doing?
Yeah. And you brought on some other members on the initial board of directors. I think we have one turnover so far because we're staggering terms. We're making sure that we're not stagnant in that we're going to have a cycle through our board members moving forward so that we're responsible, as a board. You talk about some of the other members that you brought on and some of the talents or skills that you've seen to create this board.
Well, and funny thing you brought that up too is, we chose to do that staggered terms just so we would have consistency. So there would always be board members who remember, okay, there's reasons why we made certain decisions. And so we didn't want like a full turnover all at once every 4 years or anything like that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up the staggered positions. But yeah, the first original member that we had was Dave Archambault II, who's a former tribal chairman. And he's the first one we had rotate out. And we rotated him out with Mr. Chad Harrison. But the reason I picked Dave was because I worked under him as tribal chairman, and I really liked what he brought to the table, his administration. He brought Standing Rock Sioux Tribe into running as a business. Mr. Archambault is he's got a business background, business education, and he really brought that foot forward and really turned around Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, the government agency itself. And I was just like, wow, we need to be moving in this direction. And he just brought this expertise, all this this leadership skills. I was actually wanting him to be the chairperson of SAGE because I was like, you're my chairman, you have to be. And so we went back and forth on that. And, he was my pick for chairperson of SAGE, but but it turned out the way it is for a reason, I guess. Another person I nominated was Miss Phyllis Young. And I felt like we really needed an elder on the group, someone to make sure we stay in perspective. And she brings this, how many years, 50, 60 years of activism with her, all this history and all this treaty knowledge, where we've been and her, her insights into where we need to be. And she's very strongly opinion, and I just love that about her, and that's one reason I picked her. And she's, they gave her a Lakota name of, woman who protects the water. So, and that's, to me, I think of that as not just the water, but all natural resources. She is there for us. She is there for Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth. She's there by protecting Unchimaka, she's protecting our descendants.
So then it was Ben.
Yeah. I felt it only right. I nominated Ben as I thought we should have a tribal council representative. And he was the representative that was from the district that the wind farm will potentially be on or will be on. And that's Porcupine District in North Dakota. Nominate him not only for that, but at the time he was sitting, he was a veteran in the economics committee within tribal council itself. So he knew all the background of the energy program, the mineral program, where we've been, what we're doing now, all of that. He had insight into that. I really did feel like we needed that tribal council rep in order to get a liaison between the two offices, between the tribal government and the SAGE corporation. So yeah, and I forgot we did have one turnover there too because Ben did leave office and he's now replaced with Wilberta Red Tomahawk, who is the current Porcupine District representative. But Wilberta too.
Yeah, that was a stroke of luck.
Yeah. Wilberta came from the Land Management Office, which oversees energy resources for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. So she has background on it too. So we're really thankful that we have this diverse group of people. They're diverse, yet they all have experience within, energy.
Yeah. And then we Tim Mintz.
Yeah, Tim, I've known Tim my entire life. I call him Lekshi Tim. He is and he's well known in our area, he was chosen as a child to be a knowledge keeper for us. He's a former tribal historic preservation officer for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. And I wanted him on, and he's a non-voting elderly advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want the perspective, because we came into this Sage Development Authority pretty much at the end of the No DAPL movement. And my intention was, we will never harm any cultural resources, because that was the big thing that happened during No DAPL, is some of our cultural resources were harmed and just plowed right through with a oil pipeline. And that's what really got our people angry.
Yeah.
And so I thought, we want to develop a green energy, but I want to do it the right way. So when I picked this board, I said, this is my intention. Doesn't necessarily need to be yours, but this is my intention. We will never, ever harm cultural resources. And the rest of the board they were on board with me. So, and that's why I brought Tim in as a non-voting elderly advisor, is I wanted him to, almost be a watchdog for us, keep us in line. This is what the elderly believe. This is how we do it in the correct Lakota Dakota way. We call on him when we are, when we're torn on things. So, and I think that's what really makes us unique as a board, as a Section 17, really, is to have that outside advisor come in when and if we need him.
That's really true. That helps a lot. It's just going through my mind, about, the diversity in our board and the talent that we have to face unknown challenges, because this wind farm has been one unknown challenge after another, as we're moving forward and the steps, gather our resources, protect our resources, get into the internet connection queue, get into the studies, etc. The project itself and the fundraising aspect of that have been, all a challenge. These are things that I never did in my business background. And so it's great to have a real diverse team, and, like the consultants that we have on. I think it was great initially to start the wind project on, we brought PS&E in, Power Systems Engineering. We're working with UL, formerly AWS. All these guys are premier in the industry, as well as Denton's Legal. We think about everyone that works with us, and when they speak, they have that gravitas or that credibility to say that what they're speaking is true, particularly coming from a project. I think ours is the first wind project, major commercial wind project in the country. So we're blazing away and having to create legislation and these forms, like with the BIA, that weren't there before. So the legal end of that, it's been a challenge, but, it's like conversations I have with some folks about the project is that it's been a prayer, and we still maintain schedule. And I pray about the project, and other people pray about, things important to their lives, and that if this project is to be good for our people, then it'll continue. So it does. So I've been pretty happy about that. And I know Warren had to he's busy. He's in between. He's at the conference at United Tribes this week. So again, I want to thank him for his time, but I guess while we got him here, before he has to go altogether, is that Sage itself as a Section 17 organization has the wind project, but then there are other projects that we're thinking about. But as a community development arm, what are your thoughts about what you'd like to see as goals as Sage moves forward for our community and things to develop? So I'll pose that question to Warren first, and then Fawn can hop in.
So my thoughts are that we one day are self-reliant, not just in a lot of things, but especially in renewable energy. That our people are no longer reliant on gas and oil, and that we have options available to them. And actually, because we're so economically depressed as communities, that we can provide them a better resource with better with more economical means. I mean, a cheaper source of energy that they can afford. Winter times are harsh. We have so many calls where electricity goes out, furnaces go out, homes are getting cold, and heating is a big issue. During the summer, there's other issues that our people are faced with, keeping our homes cool, especially for those elders that can't take the heat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something that we all need to be mindful of. Is we're in it for our people ultimately, to provide them that better resource, and hopefully that we make our communities better by doing it. Economically, actually, that we better ourselves also in that manner, that we can provide that not just for our people but our surrounding communities, and really set the example for how we can affect climate change for not just ourselves but for everybody involved in our worldwide, actually. So that's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Warren. And Fawn, we established ourselves as a public power authority, and we're actually registered with American Public Power Association. Can you talk a little bit about why that was important?
I just think we chose at the time to join it because it offers a great model for us. We don't want to be this closed off entity of Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. We are a public power authority. We are we are serving the people. We want it to be known that. And also they have a great model that's gone back hundreds of years on how to implement something like this, how to implement this technology. So they're there and they offer support. So why not use it? Why try and reinvent the wheel when you have a model that's sitting out there that's going to be useful for us? And you have all this association that's there to lend a helping hand and lend their expertise. So, it's a win-win situation. That's the way I look at it.
I appreciate that answer because I work quite closely with folks from APPA, Mark Gherkin. I want to mention his name. I think roughly 60 years in the industry, 50 at least. And he's been a guiding light, into things we need to start looking at next and beyond, getting to the point where we're choosing a developer. And he was with us in initial developer interviews, we had down in Texas a few months ago at the American Clean Power organization. So that's been good. And I think also, just to touch on being a public power authority, we are applying to the Southwestern Power Pool as a generating member. So that even makes it more real for us to be able to put our power out there commercially for sale, and then use that revenue to come back to build our own systems here at home so that we can build ourselves out. So I really appreciate the board's vision, in that thought, because we're self-supporting our ability to create renewable energy and systems and infrastructure here at home that will ultimately bring the cost of power down. And then supporting those systems, through financial institution building so that our employees and, our people will have an arm to build credit, get loans for homes, home ownership, et cetera, to build out further our economic base so that we can move away from the model that we were forced into, and I think as we talk about this, as we all have talked about this, in conversations on the board, is that doing this through our own lens because we know it's important to us. We know how we value our community, we know how we value our children, our land, and to me, it means a lot. And I think that we looked at this as a model for other communities to use, tribal communities, but I think other communities, period, could use it. Other rural communities that can gather their resources and can be unified in a thought, as well as other countries, other third world countries or other second world, first world, whatever you want to call those world countries. But anyway, I think it's a model that could, one, promote and decarbonize energy production, and then put communities in the driver's seat instead of investors. But, it's like a symbiotic thing, because we're using capitalism in order to gain revenue to do for the community what we need to do for our people. So it's playing in both arenas until we come to a point down the road where our children will be making the decisions about how we move forward as an organization. And I look forward to seeing that. I just get excited. It really is exciting, So, speaking about that, goals that we have for SAGE moving forward, I touched on, a few things, but do either of you have thoughts in particular about other institutions? I know we talked about like doing a museum and interpretive center so we could tell our own history at one point. And I think that is on the board. But there's other things that would be goals for SAGE moving forward. What are your thoughts there, Warren?
Listening and I was remembering, when we met to create our strategic plan,
Mm-hmm.
and in that we wanted to stay as closely tied to our traditional beliefs and our traditional lifeways and systems that helped our people sustain themselves for generations. And it was that integrity that we wanted to bring forward into our efforts with SAGE development. And so I think that it was only a natural thought that if, we support and work with the elements, but we also remember our history. So the center to sort of do that was, I think in doing that, I think we involved a greater community, not just sustainable energy projects, but cultural projects, our language. We bring all of those things onto the table and involve other areas. I have to. I'm sitting on this panel here at this conference for tourism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to discuss tourism, and I think that is something that we at SAGE Development felt like would be something that would be beneficial for ourselves and for the project. So I think that we're not just wind energy,
Right.
And SAGE development takes in the entirety of who we are as Lakota people, Dakota people, and we don't limit ourselves, and I like that. I like that idea, because then we're not isolating ourselves from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can have a stake in these efforts moving forward. That's kind of my thought.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Warren. Fawn, you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad Warren brought up the strategic plan. I was just amazed, at my board members when we went through that strategic plan, because I feel like, holy, I was just so narrow-minded. I was just like, I want a wind farm. I've been working on this for 10 years now. But the board members had this massive vision that was just amazing. And, some of the things Warren brought up was, the Cultural Interpretive Center, museum. I mean, those would be positives to come out of the final outcome of a project. But, other things too, just we want to become the renewable energy epicenter of the world. Let's think big, why not? We're dreaming here. We want to partner with Sitting Bull College. We want training and education opportunities for our kids, for our current students. We want to be able to provide the workforce for our own projects.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just to be talking about just energy overall too is like such a hardcore belief to our Lakota and Dakota ways. I mean, it's all about energy. When we think about, we really get down to the spirituality that we all hold, and energy is number one. The energy we put off in the world, we get back on us.
Mhm.
So that's just, my hope is, we're trying to do something good with the Ambetui project and Sage Power Authority as a whole with different, all kinds of other projects. It's like we're putting out good into the world. Hopefully that comes back on us. And so we can continue sharing and continue, doing the right thing for the people of Standing Rock and ultimately the world, because we want to reduce our carbon impact worldwide. We got to think bigger. It's not just about Standing Rock.
That touches a point in me because we awarded a grant for the EDA and Department of Energy too for an EV charging network with Red Lake over in Minnesota. So we're going to be getting, I think it's 5 electric vehicle charging stations, throughout the reservation here to connect to Red Lake, and then use that as a springboard to connect to Cheyenne River, Flandreau, Crow Creek, Pine Ridge, Rosebud, all the places so that Native Americans our communities, our nations can be a part of the electrification, movement that's happening across the country. And we'll be getting our own vehicle as well as a couple of other entities. Here at the tribe, we'll be getting vehicles to have exposure and to do like test rides, for kids and parents who've never driven in one or may never get to, et cetera, because the cost of these things are high. So for us, it's sharing that, what we're able to acquire so that our people can experience it. And then hopefully that spark, that kid goes, oh, I love this vehicle. It's my life, and goes into a field of engineering and science. And who knows, what our kids are going to discover, because when you talked about that energy, I'm happy you did that while Kashkashka went through my mind. Something sacred is moving, and that's in the fields and that's in the trees, and that's when things are happening. And when the spirit comes, you see that and you feel that. So, and we're surrounded by that. And it's our respect for that I think differentiates us from this modern world, massively, so that we can teach that. Going back to like the interpretive center and museum for tourism has always been a big driver here about what we Lakota believe and Dakota believe, and we want to tell our own story. So, and I know in my thought about it too, is that we have a family, how do I say it, recording place or digital recorder where, family members can come in and talk about their family history. And all these families from all these places around Standing Rock and off of Standing Rock to talk about our history tells a history, of who we are, not some Washichu's book, who's backdated and then cataloged by someone else's Washichu reference. This is our story by our own words and our own families. And that can tell what happened in certain places and spaces, collectively to say, yeah, that's a fact because this family said it, that family said it, and that family said it. And that's a fact, in this place, this happened. And so our kids are going to want to come back and know it's a place to come back to. But I think of that place, the interpretive center, is that everybody has an industriousness about them in the communities. Can do something to bring to sell there, or get into business in some way, or tell stories, or put on workshops, and show how our culture lives and breathes today.
Well, I have the perfect example of something that just happened to me today.
Okay.
My grandmother's traditional dress just got returned to me. I don't even know how old it is. It could potentially be going on 100 years old.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, that would be great if we had our own museum. Because right now I'm thinking, how do I preserve this thing? Can I do it on my own? Or do I need to put it on loan to a museum so they preserve it the right way? I don't want to, but I might have to. So I'm torn with that decision right now. So that's just one thing that, if we had that for our tribe, that would be so amazing. And then we can tell our own story.
Yeah.
I think every family struggles with that because our family, we have some old items that are well over 100 years old now, and some of those things we worry that they'll deteriorate, and fall by the wayside, and so we had the discussion about, do we donate it to museum to help preserve those items that we have as family members, and or some of those things are sacred things too. So we kind of struggle with that thought, do we let this go, or do we keep this in our family as a sacred thing? So those are discussions that I think all of us are going to have at some point, and what's going to be important, telling the story and having the things to show that tell those stories.
Warren and I were just out in DC this month to go to Department of Energy, just around the time where the IRA had passed, and it was an energy summit we had went to where they were talking about carbon sink and carbon credits and how that has an impact on grasslands, in particular, any other natural growth, whether that's a forest or grasslands. And I know, Fawn, that you worked in soil conservation for a while. And how do you see a connection with SAGE and that effort?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's, I don't know a lot about the business, but you know what? There's always, this is funny, there's always this big debate, and I don't know if anyone else will get this, but everyone talks about what's a better carbon sink, grassland or trees? And because they always say, save the world, plant a tree, save the world, plant a tree. But I'm pro grass. Because I believe grassland holds more carbon than trees do. So I'm pro grassland, I should say.
Yeah. I love it. I have uncles who would have loved to hear you say that.
No, I agree with that. Go ahead, Fawn. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we're the prairie here, and we are a grassland prairie. This is our ecosystem, and why not utilize what we have? And grassland is a great carbon sink. And I mean, I don't know a whole lot about the carbon credit business, but if we have it, let's use it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to bring up, was the carbon credit aspect of it. We have, it paints a pretty picture that companies would pay us to just not use our land, and save the grass and all of that stuff. But then we have to also look at what those companies are doing. Are they actually working to be carbon neutral as companies so that they can get those carbon tax credits and all that stuff? Or are they just doing this so that they can collect that but keep polluting the world? So we had to kind of balance that out and look at that. In fact, it's funny you guys should mention that, because Saturday I have to travel down to Rosebud because I'm involved with the project, and it's about grassland, and it's replanting some of the traditional flora and fauna that used to grow on prairies. And so I'm going down there because this was a project I've been working on for about a year now. And the 3 sites that we selected as initial projects was the Rosebud Reservation, Cheyenne River, and then the Sisseton. So these 3 areas, we're going to have interpreters, have somebody who's familiar with the cultural knowledge of the land and what that meant to our people, and then have somebody who's more the scientist aspect, the educational aspect, and what that means. And the project is actually called Common Ground, and it's funded by the Episcopal Church where I go, and so I'm on that diocesan council. So that was kind of the thing. It was more like what do we do to sort of educate our congregations about Native people and things like that. And then all of a sudden this project came forward, and then I thought, well, cool, you know, I mean, it's like it was just sort of meant to be. So we're talking about replanting some of the maybe species of flora and fauna that are almost extinct or something, you know, and what that means to regenerate the soil with those plants, grasses. So I thought that was kind of an amazing project. I think
I'm glad you brought up that project, because my current job, I'm the director of reservation resources for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, basically land management. And I just had a nonprofit come, and I'm sorry, I can't remember their name right now, but they want to plot a land to try and do this effort to replant some of our medicines we no longer have. And just a little education on the background is we lost a lot of our medicines when the Pick Sloan flooding happened in the 40s and the 50s. And I just wanted to, kind of put that out there and warn them that, the reason we lost these medicines is because we lost our hydric cycle of the way the Missouri River would swell and recede every year. We lost that. For Standing Rock, they turned it into Lake Oahe. And that's basically Pick Sloan, is they dammed up the river and made a bunch of reservoirs. So like when we want to replant or do anything with those medicines, we have to try and mimic that same hydric cycle. So, we got to try and find, a river or a stream or something that will have that same hydric cycle, but isn't, doesn't have a dam on it or anything that's going to, alter that. Yeah. So I'm like, just, it's possible. We got to work our way around that Pick Sloan flooding that's been so hurtful for people over the past couple generations. But we'll get there.
It's interesting listening to this conversation, talking about basically agriculture and replanting and reseeding our own medicines, our own foods. And regenerative agriculture is a big key word in the last year. People are starting to really attach themselves to it. And, we ate seasonally. We were cultivated, in the draws and the valleys, everything so that we can continue to have that relationship with the plants, with that nation, and to self-sustain one another. And I see us as being I could see SAGE being catalytic in that effort to help source fund efforts for families to do that, in their own spaces and places. So people participate, not just farms and farmers, but, everyday people out there on their lands or, tribal lands doing this thing that SAGE can say, we're going to put this money towards this effort, find a place for you to get a benefit off of that and spur on a relationship. And to me, Fawn, it goes to something you said not too long ago that I heard, is that talking about the root systems of plants, of natural grasses go down 6, 7, 8 feet sometimes. And that keeps the soil in place, the topsoil in place. And I think one of the larger impacts in the United States is due to the monocropping, that all the topsoil is gone, basically.
It's all Kentucky bluegrass now, a monoculture.
Yeah.
So it's just that, ultimately, we're here. We want to educate people about the Umbetui project, SAGE Power Authority, our Section 17. But ultimately, us as board members, we're here because, we want to do right by our people, and we want to do right by Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth. And that is to try and help reduce carbon. And so do everything we can, even if it's small, is planting a garden and not treating like, you have other grasses popping up other than Kentucky bluegrass. Don't treat those as, like they're a weed. They're a native grass. You guys, come on, we got to educate about stuff like that. The overall big picture. We want to push renewable energy, but there's also smaller things that everyone can do.
Yeah, and one of the big takeaways that I wanted to mention is my folks always talked about how there was a reciprocal relationship with our environment. We didn't take and just take. There was always a give back. You know, if you took this, then you give something back. So that's sort of something that's within our culture, that we reciprocate. You know, that we're also givers. And so I think that's ultimately, what does that look like today, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and giving back to Unchimaka and helping her to survive so that she can continue to provide for us as people.
So nowadays they call that, and it's a really big word nowadays, is traditional ecological knowledge in the science community.
Oh, wow.
So it's, yeah, we know all this stuff because we were raised this way, and we hear the stories from our our grandparents, and this is how we live. And that was all taken underground because we were so oppressed for so long,
Right.
for well over 100 years now. And what a lot of people are shocked by is, what, Native Americans, we're the first environmentalists, because we never, what Warren said is, we never just kept taking from Unchimaka. We gave back. It was a cycle. So we were the first teachers. We had this traditional ecological knowledge, and now we got to bring those stories back and start speaking about it, and take back our own story and start telling and teaching our descendants, because it held underground for so long. But now, now's the time. It's we're coming to a tipping point where we need to start expressing this knowledge.
Yeah, things are
We just got the right to express our religion in 1976. Am I right about that?
78.
1978, the last group of people in this country to have religious freedom and expression are the original people of this country. Kind of tells you, the suppression of and the guilt about what this country holds, and it's something. And I'm fortunate to be, with peers like yourselves that look at this and we're finding ways to overcome this and move strategically. Like when we came up with the name SAGE, it was Warren who said strategic advancement of goals for the environment. And our environment just isn't the world, it's the environment we live in with each other as well. So I think it all fit really well. So it's knocking, one goal at a time out, day by day, and making it happen. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning into this conversation. And, if any of this strikes you, a lot of the things that we talked about, if something's saying, I can help with that, or I know a way to do this or that, or I'd like to be involved there, take a look at us at www.sagesrst.com. And you can find the link to the Petui website to take a look at our wind farm. I know we're going to be putting up, I think it's a 2-pager to talk about a deck to talk about what we're up to visually, so you can take a look at that, as well as a lot of articles and things that have been produced, by Sage over the last few years, talk about who we are. But we thought it was important to tell you about Sage, not just the Wind Project, about what our beliefs are. And I can't thank our 2 members, Fawn and Warren, enough, for guiding us through this conversation, because it's always an education and a reaffirmation of who we are. As I'm Hunkpapa Lakota on my mother's side, and I'm Black on my father's side. And when I moved home 30 some odd years ago, my spirituality, my thought about God, everything came focusing right through that pipe, so, and I found myself, and it was good to be home. It's good to be home. So that's what we want for everybody. And I'll go to Warren first for closing thoughts, and then we'll finish with you, Fawn.
Okay, I just wanted to, I really appreciated this conversation, because for me, I think I needed it at this time. It just sort of helped remind me and encourage me to sort of keep moving with this and going on and things. Life gets so busy, but I tell you that ultimately, if things keep going in the world the way they are, that we're not going to be here, then we're really going to be hurting other people. And so this is extremely important. And I think that the conference that you mentioned in Washington that we went to, I believe the title was Climate Crisis. You know, I think that's the world is just now realizing that we're in a crisis, and I believe that our people knew this from day one. You know, that we saw our environment changing so quickly, and that nothing was being returned to it. You know, and that the landscape changed, and I believe I heard that at the conference that all across the United States, the topsoil, the level had dropped so many hundreds of feet because of the farming and the taking and the clearing and all of that stuff. So the original land is really no longer, you know, from first contact to now. And that's really something to think about when we process a lot of this stuff. That's an immense amount of soil that we lost. Anyway, it's just my thought that this is an important project, not just for our people, but for people around the world. It's that important.
Thank you, Warren. Appreciate that. Fawn?
Yeah, I just like to same sentiments as Warren. I'm really glad we had this conversation. We need to do this once in a while just to keep us in perspective. And you know, I'm really glad we had it because it helped me realize, yeah, you know what? It's not just us. It's everyone. It's worldwide. We all need to do something. So yeah, closing thoughts. I just thank everyone for listening. Thank everyone for watching. And you know, if I can be there and answer any questions for anyone, I absolutely will. So thank you.
So I'll be giving Fawn's phone number out here in a little bit. Just kidding. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us and being with us. Wopila Tanka, I give you great thanks. And Doksha, okay, we'll see you again. Medakyo Asin. To all my relatives out there.